Hey everyone, it's Mr. Hollywood, and today I am doing an entire review of Godfather Part 3, which I was probably supposed to do a few months ago when I actually turned 35. However, for other reasons, it got delayed till now. But I still really want to talk about this film in full length, so today's the day. This is day 7 of my 200-day posting streak goal, so a week in. And let's talk about Godfather Part 3. By far the weakest Godfather movie. I'll definitely just say that up front. I mean, it definitely doesn't compare to the greatness of the first two, especially not the second one. However, this is also one of the most personal films to me, personally, of all time. And I'll get to that segment later on in the video. So, let's just start off with the positives of Godfather Part 3. First off, I think this is Al Pacino's best performance in the entire franchise. And he was obviously amazing in the first two, but I think in this one, I really feel like Al Pacino really took front and center. Like, I felt that way in the second one. Definitely felt like Marlon Brando, completely just stole the show in the first film. And even then, like, I still feel like Robert De Niro stole the show in the second film. Like, I thought those were the two best performances of the Godfather trilogy. Marlon Brando in the first film and then Robert De Niro in the second film. So yes, in the first two films, I liked Vito Corleone more. However, in this film, I really felt all the emotions when it came to Michael Corleone's character. I feel like his arc throughout the trilogy did reach an amazing end. I do think he got the ending he deserved, which, again, we'll kind of talk about this in, like, towards the end, like, when I'm talking about the personal segment, but, yeah, I do think he got the ending he deserved, and I did really like seeing him kind of on his own a bit, but kind of seeing him still be the loving Godfather that he got basically promoted to at the end of the first film. I thought his chemistry with everyone in this film was great. And yeah, like, I really do think this is Al Pacino's best performance in the Godfather trilogy. And I think he was already amazing in the first two. Also, Andy Garcia was amazing in this as, it would have been his first cousin once removed, I believe. Because I believe it would have been his daughter's first cousin. But yeah, Andy Garcia, he was great in Godfather Part 3. I really love the complexity to his character in this film. And I thought Diane Keaton, who recently passed away, she was just getting better with each entry throughout the Godfather trilogy. So in a lot of ways, there are things about this I liked more than the first two. Which I know might annoy people when I say there are things in this I did like more than the first two. But yes, Al Pacino and Diane Keaton, I thought were by far at their best in this film. And of course the score is great. And the story is still the story. It's still an amazing story. And I do think this film did have a lot of intrigue. And this did raise a lot of good questions of this family not really in their prime anymore. However, this family still feeling like an actual family. And I do think it still represents the themes of the Godfather trilogy, which is family. So yes, I do think this is still a very important film to the Godfather trilogy. Even though it was obviously definitely not part of a plan for this to be the entry. The original plan was for them to just end it at Godfather Part 2, which, Godfather Part 2 is my favorite sequel of all time, and that would have been a fantastic ending. But obviously, this kind of gets to the first problem I'm going to talk about. You could tell this film was a bit of a desperate attempt. I do think in some ways you could say it did a good job hiding it, because it's like, I still think there was a lot of heart in this film. But yes, Francis Ford Coppola, famously in debt, needed to make some money, He removed Robert Duvall because they apparently didn't want to pay him that much, so he just quit. And then Winona Ryder was supposed to play Mary Coppola, and then because she got sick, they brought in Sofia Coppola. And honestly, poor Sofia Coppola. Look, I did not like Sofia Coppola in this. I didn't. With that being said, I didn't despise her. Like, I thought she gave the weakest performance, the weakest performance of the trilogy, not even really close. And I don't particularly like her in Godfather 3, and that is definitely a problem I had. But I don't think it was, like, movie-breaking. My main problem with the film, I don't actually have that many problems with this film in the grand scheme. Like, I feel like people are a bit harsh on this film just because, when you're trying to close out a trilogy where the first two are, like, just literally unbeatable, where the first two are, like, all-time amazing films, of course, just being even a little bit below that, which, I think it was a little more than a little below that, but of course, naturally, being below that, I feel like people are going to be harder on the film. With that being said, my main problem with the film, and my only other major problem besides the ones I just mentioned, is a subplot between Andy Garcia and Sofia Coppola. Genuinely, I thought that was weird. Yeah, there's like no other way to put it. And that did take up a good portion of the film. And look, I loved Andy Garcia's acting, and I feel like because he did such a great job, I guess you could say it made it not the worst thing ever to watch, but it's like, this whole subplot with, like, Mary Coppola and Andy Garcia having an affair even though their blood, no, like, that didn't sit well. That is definitely a major problem I had. With that being said, I do think Andy Garcia brought a lot of charm. And I will say, Sofia Coppola, her character's death scene was actually really sad. Like, I actually did feel emotion during her death scene. And, I do feel bad for Sofia Coppola. She kind of just got shoehorned in by her own father. And look, I'm not exactly a fan of her as an actress, but of course, she's had a successful career directing. I recently watched Lost in Translation, and that might be a film I review soon because I do love that movie. And yeah, she was the director of Lost in Translation, and that was an incredible movie. And it's if she were to direct a film, I'd be more than happy to see it. Now, I wouldn't, of course, avoid a film just because she's in it, but I'm more likely to see her for her direct. I'm definitely a way bigger fan of her as a director than an actress. I'm pretty sure almost everyone is by this point. But yeah. Lost in Translation, by the way, is an amazing movie that I do highly recommend if you haven't seen. But yeah. So, I feel bad for Sofia Coppola. But yeah, Mary Corleone, her death scene was actually very sad. And then, we'll get to the end. Michael Corleone's death. Like I've said probably a few times when I say he got the end he deserved, I think it was a satisfying end to his character. I think he died in peace. It very much so looped around to Vito Corleone's death scene in the first film. And I feel like by the end, I felt satisfied with where his character ended up. He would probably be in my top 3 favorite movie characters of all time, honestly. Partially because of this film. But of course, the first two definitely very much so contributed to that as well. But yeah, I felt a lot of emotion during his death scene. I do think it was a beautiful end. I'll say it. Yeah, I do think it was overall a beautiful end to an amazing trilogy. I don't think this movie was amazing, but I also do still think this movie was a great movie. Like Godfather 3 is still way better than what most people can do on their best days. There is still a lot to love about Godfather 3. Is it anywhere near as good as the first two? No, not by a long shot. It is still an amazing movie. I felt everything watching Godfather 3. And, I mean, I feel like, yes, even though there was a lot more exposition in this, and not as much what's going on, like, I still felt a lot, like, watching it. It's like, just kind of being in a bit of a rebooted stage of their life. But overall, Godfather 3 worked. Now I'll get to why this film's very personal. Family. I've had a bit of a crazy year. This is kind of stuff that I would probably... By the way, this next stuff is not stuff you would have heard me talk about in December, but now it is. I've had a bit of a crazy year in terms of dealing with stuff I won't get into. And I had someone in my life who I looked up to, and, well, he is still fortunately alive. He was kind of like a family friend to me. And then for reasons I won't go into, he's kind of back where he was for the 15 years leading up to that he tried so hard to get out of. And I felt like that was kind of a metaphor in this film. Now, I think there are films that actually are way more metaphoric, way more of a metaphor to what I'm actually talking about right now than Godfather 3. And I could probably talk about those films like those in our video. But the idea that, I mean, sometimes family, friends are like, the idea that just because you're not where you were, unfortunately that is just a bit of a part of life. But now I'll get to the stuff that you would have definitely heard me talk about, even more so in December. This film came out a month before my grandfather passed away. My grandfather was a big fan of the first two Godfather movies. Those were like his two favorite movies of all time. And my grandfather's name was Michael Connor, very similar to Michael Corleone. And yeah, he died a month before this film came out. And, I mean, my dad saw these films at a young age. He loved them. His father introduced them. And of course, all these years later, he's introduced them to me. But it's like, I mean, he died a month before this film came out. So when I watched Michael Corleone die at the end of the film, it did kind of feel like a bit of a metaphor to what was kind of going on in my specifically my dad's family's life during that time period. But Godfather 3 really does show the value of family. And, I mean, all these years later, in some ways, when I was watching Godfather 3, I was actually thinking about my grandfather a lot. Because I know that, I do feel like, given what my dad's told me about his movie taste, he probably would have felt the same way about this as, like, my dad. Because my dad doesn't hate this film either. Like, me and my dad do both kind of agree it's a good movie. And first off, I do want to say I actually like this a little more than my dad did. But we both agree it's definitely the weakest Godfather movie. But we both like it more than most people. Like, there's still a lot to love about Godfather 3. I think Godfather 3 is still a worthy addition to the trilogy. And while this isn't like a prestigious third film, like Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, and some other third films, this is still a worthy film. So, overall, I'm going to give Godfather 3 a 9 out of 10. And I'll give it an A-. It is actually still a great movie. There is still a lot to love. But yeah, that is my review of Godfather Part 3. That definitely got a bit heavy. But yeah, this film, stand by it. One of the most personal films of all time for me. Even though this is definitely my least favorite of the Godfather trilogy. Still a movie I love. So, thanks for watching. Feel free to share what your thoughts on Godfather Part 3 are down below in the comments. And I'm very proud to say I've made it through a week of my 200-day posting streak goal. And I cannot wait to keep going. Now, thanks for watching, and peace out.